Well, it appears the days of there being a Seidler in charge of the Padres are numbered. A bombshell that dropped Thursday morning, and like some other Padres news of late, shocking at first. The more you think about it and talk about it, the more maybe you shouldn't be so surprised. And this is something that if you hadn't already seen it coming, again, maybe not too much of a shock given what has transpired in recent years. And of course, as others have pointed out, Derek, uh, just shy of 2 years since the passing of Peter Seidler. And here we are. What a day, Derek. How are you, man?
Now, one of the many curious timing aspects of this that I'm sure we're going to get into during this podcast. I mean, just not only from a respect perspective, but from a business perspective, the timing of doing this right now doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But
Hmm.
as you said, this could be the dawning of a brand new awesome day for the Padres. I think we can probably spin this as maybe a positive. Let's find out.
Yeah, I think, as is often the case when you're faced with like a hard, you know, um, turn of events like this, I think from a fan standpoint, you're pushing back on this reality, and there will have to come a point, not saying it has to be a today, where you think, okay, this is probably happening, and maybe on the other side of this there will be some stability that has been lacking over the course of the last 2 years. So all things we will discuss. Looking forward to get your thoughts on the matter, Derek, and if you are watching or listening and want to chime in as well, hit us up and we will include your thoughts on the pod. Thanks to OG's, the sponsor of the On Fire podcast. Appreciate all they do for On Fire and the NBC7 sports team. If you need a good place to catch the NBA, NHL, college football Saturdays, NFL Sundays, OG's, hit up one of their many San Diego County locations. Great menu, great beer list, constant specials, and often updating their menu. So hit up OG's if you need a good meal, great place to catch a ball game. And again, shout out to OG's for all they do for On Fire and the NBC7 Sport Trap team. Without further ado, the walk-up music. It is the On Fire podcast brought to you by NBC7. He is Derek Togerson. I am Darnay Tripp, joining you on the afternoon of Thursday, November 13th. And it feels like this day has already been a week with the news that broke Monday morning that John Seidler and the Seidlers pursuing a potential sale of the Padres organization, something that we discussed and feared around this time last year, and really since Peter Seidler passed 2 years ago tomorrow. And
Mhm.
it appears we are heading this direction. And they released their statement and it's all kind of the potential of this or that. This feels a bit like going up to your wife and saying, I'm exploring the potential of a divorce, or I'm exploring the potential of a new partner, or going to your boss and saying, I'm exploring the potential of quitting my job. At that point, the monkey's kind of out of the bottle. Like, I think we know what direction this is heading, but obviously there are a lot of details to be sorted out, and they're going to need to find, hopefully, as they say they will, the right person that will continue this franchise and the trajectory it is on. Derek, you've had what, 6 or so hours to process this. Where you're landing at this moment now?
That's the weird part, Darnay, is I don't know. Like I keep on going like to one side over here, and I come to a conclusion. I go, well, yeah, but I go to the other side over here and come to a conclusion. Like there's no rhyme or reason to this. It's weird. It comes out of left field. It's as you mentioned, you're right. Maybe we should have seen the writing on the wall at some point where it was like John's never around. He doesn't talk to anybody. He never really felt like he was gung ho on the job or they was really into being part of a Major League Baseball ownership group. I think we're seeing right now as I just put on my take off my reporter hat and put on my fan hat that a lot of things that Sheel said were right. something that we talked about on this podcast. If it's really, she really feels like she's the right one here. And most lawyers will tell you on any side, you got a good client and a bad client. You hope you get the good client. And I think Sheel might have been the good client in this one. I don't know. It's very, 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 very strange that he would do it at this time. As I was saying off the top, free agency started a week ago. Players traditionally don't like going places that have ownership instability. So you're shooting yourself in the foot with getting potential players in here. There's going to be a lockout after 2026. They're going to lose games. What owner in their right mind would come in and buy a club not knowing what the financial landscape of the league you're buying into truly looks like? So it's just weird. It strikes me as just freaking weird.
Yeah. Freaking weird is a good way to put it. I think just in terms of kind of some of the writing on the wall, there's obviously the lawsuit. No doubt this factors into this in some way, shape, or form.
No, and Sheel could also, by the way, seeing what's happening now, she could very well go right back and reopen that thing or file a fresh one saying, see, I told you Peter never wanted this guy in charge. He didn't. He knew that John wasn't fully into this. I should have been in charge the whole time. Changes from before they can sell, insert me as managing partner. She could very well try that and have a pretty good case to stand on.
There's also, like you said, the fact that we haven't heard from John Seidler with any sort of regularity. He was in the booth early in the season. I went back and listened to that interview today with Don and Mudd just to see if there's anything that kind of popped out early in the season. I think it was maybe the first Friday night of the season. I think it was the day after opening day. I think he might have talked to AC and some of the reporters at spring training, but has really not been visible and vocal in any way, shape, or form, which again, now in hindsight kind of makes sense. If he knew that this was a possibility, he knew the questions were going to be asked. He does not seem like the most agile in interview settings, so probably knew that would trip him up or be difficult for him to sort of navigate. The AJ Preller uncertainty. Why haven't they figured anything out with AJ Preller? Okay, there's another piece of the future puzzle that maybe they don't feel comfortable locking in for years to come when they don't know who the owner is going to be and who they might want to have in charge. The fact that they
give Craig Stammen a 3-year contract. Like they're all over the place,
After giving Mike Sheel a 2-year contract to start a couple years ago, as it turns out, he fulfilled those 2 years. The renaming of Peter Seidler Way in front of Petco Park at a private event. Why was that a private event? We were all surprised. I started seeing pictures on social media of this gathering, and then John Seidler's there, and Mayor Todd Gloria is there, and then the picture of Peter Seidler Way. In any other world, this would be open to the media, potentially open to the public. That should have set off some alarms as well. So there are, different events that now when you look back, you think, well, where if it looks like a duck and smells like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And the duck has arrived at all of our doors. And I think just kind of big picture, I think everybody's first kind of, reaction to it, or one of our first reactions to it is, man, it's so unfortunate. It's such a bummer. You had this like heroic figure that was in charge of this franchise, had been in charge since 2012, really took over after 2020. We know what happened with the Chargers. Padres saw the opportunity to really grab the market, seize the market, and they did that. You have Tatis, you have Machado, you have all these big signings. We're sitting here on this podcast for a couple of years feeling like anything is possible with this franchise because of Peter Seidler and his vision. And, maybe there were some decisions that now in retrospect, in hindsight, that we've talked about in this podcast that potentially put them in a tricky situation. But you at least had somebody steering the ship that had the vision, that wanted the parade and seemed willing to do whatever it took to get there. And and on top of everything he did for the community and what he stood for and him as a person, he tragically passes away far too soon. And we are left in this limbo. And, everybody along the way said, okay, we want to honor Peter's vision and this and that. That seems to fall a little bit hollow, especially when his vision for the franchise was to keep it in the Seidler family for generations. And now we're in this place not even 2 years later, where that seems over and done with, and we're left to wonder who's going to be the owner, and will we enjoy this period of Padres baseball again, where there is that feeling of anything is possible. This team can truly compete, and its sole aim is to win a championship in the name of Peter Seidler.
Did Peter Seidler spend too much money in the wrong places? Yes, he did. I think we can probably the Xander Bogaerts contract, the second Manny Machado, whatever you want to talk about. Yes, he spent too much money in places he probably shouldn't have done it. But that's what we needed. All right. He bit off more than he could chew. But we had so many owners before that nibbling on crusts of bread when they could have taken an entire sandwich. I mean, we went from Oliver Twist to Christmas Feast at Hogwarts. Like that's what we kind of needed and deserved. And by the way, in doing that, it's no coincidence that for 3 straight years, Petco Park has set new attendance records. The Friar faithful have said, you invested in us. We are investing in you. Now, there just needed to be a regression to the mean, maybe. Keep it right around the $230 million payroll. Don't go quite so far over the luxury tax, whatever it needed to be. That could have been done. And they could have been competitive, infinitely competitive in doing all of this. And yet, for some reason, John didn't want to be part of it. Maybe it's just not him. Maybe it's just not his. He's not wired that way. He really wanted to do it a year ago. He went through it for a year and realizes, this is not me. This is not who I am. If that is the case, fine. You figure sometimes you got to back away from something, especially when you're a little later in life, when you don't want to do anything. You don't want to, risk being bitter the rest of your time. But if that's the case, back away. Give it to Sheel. Do something. Why do you jump immediately to I'm selling it? The only reason for that is I want to make a profit. I want to cash out somehow. That's the only reason you do this. So I'm having really a lot of trouble being not kind of angry about this. And that's where I was going kind of down this route, being kind of ticked off and feeling like we kind of, followed the Pied Piper and he had to kind of going over a cliff. And then I talked myself back the other way to, if the right owner shows up, this is a godsend for San Diego and the Padres fan base.
And that's the scary part, is that, you just don't know. And the fact of the matter is, one thing I wanted to say was maybe this was I think one of the big questions after Peter's passing and some of the payroll cutbacks that we've seen, was this inevitable? Was this going to happen under Peter Seidler regardless? Did the family's finances necessitate some scaling back and some struggle to deal with, based on reports from AC, from Lynn, from others, $300 million in debt that this franchise is facing? Maybe all of this was inevitable. Maybe even a sale was inevitable. The difference being, if Peter Seidler said, hey, we need to cut $60 million, and that hurts, and I hate it, but that's a reality. You could at least, nobody's going to like it, but it makes a difference when you get the news from the source, from somebody you trust, from somebody is invested and who cares. Even if they're delivering the news that, like, hey, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to have to sell. And so part of what makes this all feel sour is the fact that we don't know who John Seidler is. We don't know how much John Seidler cares. We don't know how much he really cares to honor the legacy of his brother. There's been lip service. It's on statements and that sort of thing that they've released emails to the fans, but we truly don't know. And so it makes it a little bit harder to swallow and digest and make peace with the news. It also makes it harder to trust that they will do right by Peter Seidler, the organization, the fan base, the players, in making sure that right person takes over. Because I don't know anything about these transactions. Maybe this one over here allows you to benefit a little bit more financially from this one. Maybe this one is a guy that is really willing to empty his pockets and do whatever it takes, like a Peter Seidler. Like, what direction do they end up going? And that's all speculative, but this family outside of Peter and Sheel has really done nothing to earn kind of the benefit of the doubt in these situations, and to keep us from worrying that whatever plays out might not be in the best interests of the fan base and all those who are truly invested in this organization.
I know the fear is that we get one of these clowns like Dick Monfort with the Rockies or Fisher with the A's or, whatever that nut job is with the Pirates. It's to find one of those guys who's basically looking at this going, I'm just going to buy a team, turn a tide, a little profit, not really care, not invest in it. And I don't think that'll be the case simply because franchise valuations in baseball have now reached the point that if you're going to pay $2 to $2.5 billion for an entity that's already, as we said, I'm not sure if 300 million is the number, but certainly is operating at some sort of a debt here.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be looking at that as that's where I'm going to make my hay. That's where I'm going to make my money. It's $2.5 billion, awfully hard to get a good ROI with a professional baseball team. It just doesn't happen that way. So anybody who buys the team now, I think it weeds out all those bad owners you've been trying to get rid of for a very long time, right? So that leaves you with people who are actually doing this because they want to do it. They want to be either involved in baseball because they're a fan or own a professional team because they think it's cool or be part of an incredible city like San Diego because they love it or want to have a foothold down here. It's somebody who's doing this for mostly the right reasons. So I think we can, again, this is just me following logic down the train here. I think we're going to be okay in not getting somebody who is a potential terrible owner because terrible business people simply don't have $2.5 billion laying around. Like Jeff Morad tried to buy the team for $400 million on layaway, and somehow Major League Baseball decided that was a good idea and approved it. And that's when Ron Fowler and the Seidler and O'Malley group came in to save the day. Had to clean up a bunch, and within 8 years, they were going to the playoffs in 4 out of 6 years. So it's gonna have to be somebody who legitimately can handle major financial stuff. And I'm sure we'll get into some names here in a little bit. I certainly have a few on the top of my head. But I think this could be a very good thing. Look at the last time the Major League Baseball team sold was Steve Cohen. In 2020, the Mets for $2.4 billion. Now, have the Mets been terribly successful since then? No. But has Steve Cohen poured a bleep ton of money into it and tried the best way he knows how to put something together? Yeah, absolutely he has. And that's what I think we're closer to looking at than somebody who's just looking at this as, if I make 8% each year, we'll be good. Screw the fans.
One thing that gives me pause is like you mentioned Dick Monfort. Other executives around the league constantly throwing shade at Peter Seidler and the Padres for their spending. And is it sustainable? And maybe this is the answer to that question. Maybe it wasn't sustainable.
Who cares? They tried. They tried.
Exactly.
Well, you suck because you tried to win a championship. What is wrong with this world that that's the attitude?
But you hear so much of that from like other executives and from people around the league where like, they're almost shaming the Padres for that very thing that you said, trying to win a championship and being aggressive and spending money. The Padres had the debt reduction, credence handed down by Major League Baseball a couple years ago. And so that's what gives me concern, about them finding somebody who really is aggressive and wants to push limits. Now, if that person has Steve Cohen's money, then like he's going to be able to kind of deal with that.
They're going to have to at this point, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have to be able to say, you know what? We see what the Dodgers are doing. That's the only way to compete. Now, we're not going to go to 400 million with a luxury tax, but we're going to not let guys walk out the door. We're going to keep our talent here. We're going to try and legitimately be contenders. That's what's going to happen.
But I guess my concern is like with the approval process with some of these franchises like the Rockies, like the Pirates, like the Rays, others that are have not been so aggressive and seem to have been kind of ruffled by the Padres really putting them on blast in a sense and saying, oh no, you can actually do this. You're just choosing not to. And that's what, Peter Seidler kind of exposed with some of these other owners with the approval process. If maybe they're not so comfortable with somebody who is of that ilk, and maybe they want to kind of spin it as well, we got to find somebody who's going to kind of fall in line, and they need to spend according to their market size and this or that. Again, this is all kind of speculative, but I think this is kind of my concern of fans in imagining, okay, who could take over? Will it be a Steve Cohen type? Will it be somebody who just does business according to the market size, the way too many owners in Major League Baseball seem more willing to?
I can see that. And I think the answer to that is what those guys care about more than anything else, obviously, is money. So anybody who comes in and drives up the sale price of their organization pays 2.5 billion dollars for the Padres. Guess what that does to their team? It raises their value of their team. And then they can turn right around and sell it for more than they ever thought they could. So I think the bottom line there is if this person comes in, yeah, they might outspend me on a couple of years, but they also just set a new record for how much Major League Baseball teams are worth. Therefore, I now have a more valuable asset. And I think that's what will be the bottom line for those kinds of owners. Plus, those guys, let's face it, they're cowards. They will do exactly what the Walter family and what the Steinbrenner family and what the O. Henry family, they will do what all the great owners in baseball tell them to do. And they will sit down and shut up and sell their teams and make their tidy profits about it.
Yeah. I also we've been in this rights holder TV rights limbo for 2 years now, is it? And there's been not only has there not been like a real clear answer, there hasn't been anything like remotely. Now there's the talk of what is it, the ESPN MLB deal and kind of some streaming component there. But just hanging over the Padres' heads and impacting their bottom line is the lack of a sustainable, legit TV operation. Once Bally Diamond kind of went down, and again, it's one of those things where maybe that was also an indicator that the Seidler family is just not. The Seidler brothers are not built for this. And hopefully in an owner, you find somebody who's got a little bit more savvy, understanding of broadcast deals, where it's all going, streaming over the air, that might be able to kind of pursue a far more lucrative option for the Padres. Because look, we know we're never going to compete with the Dodgers from that standpoint. But we also know that they are woefully below where they were with that Bally deal. And that's just been this lingering issue in the background that hopefully somebody with more experience, more savvy, some good connections that knows where all this is heading might be better equipped to kind of set the organization up in a manner that can feed payroll and eliminate some of the debt that they are facing.
Actually, you know what? I need to get a couple of comments here because Kyle Stelter, 7550, I completely forgot the Rays existed. Thank you. I was wrong about that. The Rays did just sell last year. And I looked it up. They sold for $1.7 billion at a time when they didn't have a stadium because a hurricane had ripped the roof off of it. And they still don't have a very good stadium solution. So if you're looking at what maybe the value of the Padres might be, the Rays have no history. They have no fan base. They have no stadium that they can play in. And they went for $1.7 billion. Now you juxtapose that against San Diego, rabid fan base, top 3 stadium in all of Major League Baseball. We're looking at a new record here. So, Kyle, thank you for reminding me about that one.
Let's get to some of the other comments because I wanted to get to those. Appreciate everybody that is watching. If you are watching, hit the chat. Let us know how you're feeling, and we will get to your comments like this from our buddy Kimberly. I'm so confused about this.
Yep.
Welcome to the club, Kimberly. It's a lot for everybody to wrap our heads around. Hey, everyone. Happy Thursday. Thanks, Daniel. Happy Thursday to you as well. They're doing this now that Hosmer is off the books.
Yeah, you know what? That makes sense. That makes sense. You exercise the ghost and then get rid of the house.
This is an interesting one from Kyle. Could save us or ship Tatis out and be catastrophic. There was the Tatis rumor from Derek's buddy Bob Nightingale that they might need to ship Tatis off in order to get rid of one of these contracts because he is the one that would remain attractive at this point. And at the time,
I'm on the train of we got to trade Tatis. Okay. We can talk about that later, but that's actually the one time I've ever agreed with Bob Nightingale is that's actually a smart baseball move.
According to AC, a Padres source tell him it's not happening in 2026. So we'll see about that.
But it's not 2026 yet.
It's not 2026.
We still have the winter meetings to go through in 2025.
But again, it's one of those things where, and Nightingale's whole thing was, this is what other GMs are saying. It had nothing to do with anything he had heard, at least based on what he reported from within the Padres. This is what other GMs are saying. perhaps other GMs knew today's news was coming. And again, this is one of those questions now. When you have a change in ownership with these big contracts, with the uncertainty around your president of baseball operations and perhaps even manager down the road, do they see things differently? And do they not have the loyalty to AJ Preller, to Fernando Tatis Jr., so on and so forth? So that is going to be another one of these things that we are watching and paying close attention to. That could be a ripple effect of this.
Yeah, well, the thing about the Tatis trade, just as a real quick aside, is no one's taken Manny's contract, no one's taken Xander's contract. Toddy right now is not showing the ability to play up to his contract, and it's only going to get bigger. He's in his prime. Someone will overpay for him now, looking at the potential upside. You have so many holes on this roster: pitching staff, depth, bench, first base. You can get a borderline Juan Soto type of trade haul, right? What they gave away to the Nationals to get. You can get that back in a situation like this for some younger, more controllable, cheaper talent and fill in multiple parts of your holes. I look back to everyone thought in 2004 the Red Sox were insane for trading Nomar Garciaparra, but he was killing them with his defense. That's Tatis being the exact opposite. His defense is stellar. His bat hasn't lived up to the potential that we've seen, probably because of the wrist injury. And they thought he was nuts because he was such a well-known guy. Well, they went and got Orlando Cabrera and a couple of other pieces and went on to win, 2 World Series in the next 4 years, breaking the 86-year-old curse. So sometimes the unpopular move, or the move that seems completely nuts, is the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah. This feels like a completely different episode, and I'm afraid of going any further down this road because that could derail us for another half hour.
Well, we were going to sit here and talk about how great Craig Stammen is for an hour, and now we haven't talked about him once.
The loss of Bally's did not help. Factual statement from TMCM7, our buddy Chip Rocks. Good riddance to the Seidler Bros. Never, in all caps, trusted these lifelong Dodger fanboys. Peter was a gift, the others not so much. It is interesting when this all shakes out, how different public perception will be for one brother from the rest of his siblings. And I'm sure there's like some movies or TV series where that is the case. I couldn't think of one off the top of my head. You're better at this stuff than I am, but it does feel like something out of like a TV show where you have this one brother that is as viewed as a saint, like Peter Seidler and the others that do not quite have the affection. And it will be interesting, when if this isn't all settled by Fan Fest, if this isn't all settled by opening day, what's it like when we see John Seidler on the stage or John Seidler on the big screen or this or that? I can guess what the reception will be like, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, things I don't know enough about the TV shows. It can maybe like a Legends of the Fall kind of feel. All three brothers are completely different. I don't know.
There's probably a Game of Thrones example. I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
I've never seen an episode.
So good until it wasn't. It was really good until it wasn't. Davey Sports 98. Exactly. Derek, sports teams are so expensive now that you have to be serious in order to afford a team.
Agreed.
Let's see. Who is the most legit minority shareholder of the Padres right now who would step up and buy the Padres?
How about Alfredo Harpelú, who would be he's from Mexico, minority order, billionaire. I could see him maybe jumping in and doing it. He would be the first, I believe, don't quote me on this, I think he'd be the first foreign-born Major League Baseball owner. He'd be great. He would be great. That's the first one that pops into my head. That would be the one.
And he's got the dough to get it done?
He's got that. I don't know. I know he's in the billionaires list. I don't know how far up.
Yeah. Let's see. New owner and 2027 player stoppage?
Yeah, they're both happening. Yeah, they're both happening.
Skyline 619. Thank goodness Derek is not the GM. I'm guessing this is in regards to Tatis.
The Tatis trade. Yeah, I can't argue against that. Yeah, there are people who know more about baseball than I do making these decisions. As much as I like to play like I know everything about baseball, AJ Preller knows more about baseball than I do.
TMCM7 and our buddy Roberto also said Succession as a TV show, but all the siblings were kind of disasters. So I don't think that's fair. There was no Peter Seidler in Succession, which is kind of what made it all great. You thought one sibling was going to be great, and then they fell off, and another sibling. And
I've never seen Succession either.
Oh, it's another phenomenal
Yeah.
TV show. I don't think Succession is a fair because there was no Peter Seidler in Succession. Anyways, another thing that always comes up that I wanted to ask you about, and you wrote about this on the NBC7 sports page. So if you want to read more on what's going on and the various ramifications, Derek Togerson has you covered on the sports wrap page, NBC7.com. There is always the relocation piece of this.
That's not happening.
Okay.
Yes, that is not happening. Well, for one, I talked to a spokesperson with the Padres, some people that we both know, and they said that the assumption / assurance is that they are going to put in any sale. You cannot relocate the team. And probably the more legal ironclad part of that now is the Padres have a lease with Petco Park through 2033. Leases are very difficult to break and they're very expensive to break. Plus, if you just look at it, are you going to find a better city than San Diego with a better ballpark than Petco Park and a more rabid fan base than the Padres, the Friar faithful right now? And that doesn't exist anywhere on the planet. Saudi Arabia can't give you that. All right. They can't do it. So Nashville can't do it. Salt Lake City can't do it. Pearl can't do it. Insert name of city here. They can't replicate what's going on in San Diego right now. So whoever does buy, if they really think that this is a better move to go somewhere else with it, then they're probably not a great business person in the first place, and they should not be owning a baseball team.
I will say 2033 isn't as far away as it used to be.
Well, we got what? See, 6. There might
it's
not
only
be
8 years.
6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 0, 1, 2. There's 8 years away.
That's it.
So, and there'll be a renegotiation with the city of San Diego to stay in the ballpark. It's Petco Park is too good. I mean, the reason that was the whole thing that Dino kept on saying why he couldn't keep the Chargers here is our facility sucks. This facility certainly does not suck.
No. And again, I don't think it's going to happen. I just understand the fears given, Dean Spanos and the history here that fans have. There's a level of PTSD that you can certainly understand. And so that's going to be something that comes up. And again, back to the Seidlers wanting to honor Peter and how they handle this, that would certainly be one piece because Peter would be devastated to find out that this franchise is no longer in San Diego. And so that's going to be kind of a part of the equation as well. You mentioned having some potential buyers in mind. Stan Kroenke has championships in NHL, NBA, and NFL. This is from Skyline 609. How about
and
Major League
NLL?
Baseball?
The Colorado Mammoth won the National Lacrosse League championship.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Is Stan on your list?
I would love Stan to take over. Yeah, no question. Stan would be great. Stan would be great because as we've seen with Stan, he knows how to hire people and put them in place who know what they're doing in that sport. Look what the Rams are doing right now. I mean, that ownership group and that front office and the way they draft and the way they scout and the way that they coach, that's an incredibly well-run organization. The Denver Nuggets, Colorado Avalanche, both won championships, and look like they're in it every single year. He understands, even if he doesn't know what to do with the sport himself, he's smart enough to find people who do, and he hires those people and he keeps those people around. Stan would be amazing. Plus, I mean, as far as I know, he's still trying to do something with the Midway project. He's still trying to be involved in trying to build a new sports arena type thing down here anyways. So yeah, he's got San Diego on the mind already. He would certainly be a guy. Another guy, Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer is currently the 9th richest person in the world, $150-something billion that he's got. And oh, by the way, he's got all that money without selling any of his Microsoft shares. He is the single largest Microsoft shareholder that exists. Sell off some of that, and he could buy the Padres and half of downtown San Diego like that. And as we've seen, he's a fantastic invested owner. And he's got, again, a foothold in San Diego because his G League San Diego Clippers play a front wave arena that he had input in helping with the design of, and also comes down to several games a year. He likes San Diego. He likes it a lot. Another guy, how about Joe Lacob? If we go back to the NBA, Joe Lacob is a Golden State Warriors owner. Joe Lacob tried to buy the A's. Fisher said no, he's going to move him to Vegas. He tried to buy the Angels. Remember a couple of years ago when Artie Moreno was kicking around the idea of selling the team? Lacob was like, give it to me. Give it to me. Do it. And then Artie decided to hang on to the team. Lakeland's been trying to get a Major League Baseball team for quite some time. He grew up in Massachusetts as a big Red Sox fan before moving out to Southern California and kind of, losing that a little bit and becoming more of a Dodger kind of fan, and then the Giants in the Bay Area. But he loves baseball. He wants a baseball team. Right now, he bought the Warriors for $450 million 15 years ago. They're worth $11.5 billion now. The dude knows how to make something profitable. So if Joe Lacob comes to calling, please sell the team to him. I beg you.
I saw some people mentioning Joe Tsai. Joe Tsai always comes up in these
Joe
these
Tsai would
matters.
be great too. Joe Tsai would be amazing. He owns the Seals. He's done a fantastic job with them. He owns the Nets.
The Liberty, right?
Maybe not so much. But he owns the Barclays Center. He's a fantastic businessman who obviously lives and has great ties and affection for San Diego as well, and also the capital to pull off a sale.
Yeah. From Chip Rocks, personally, I wouldn't want an owner that has multiple sports teams. I want an owner that is going to be devoted to the Padres and only the Padres.
I can see that. Although I do think that competing in the professional sports landscape does teach you a lot about how to be successful in the professional sports landscape. So that I could go either way with that. I think it's what if Mark Cuban has the itch? He gets mad about what's happened to his Mavericks. He wants to get back into professional sports. Come by the pod. I'd love to see Cubes out here. Not to mention the press conferences would be great.
Yeah, I think if you have the choice between a first time or a new owner of a sports franchise and somebody like a Stan Kroenke, I think you're probably going to go with a Stan Kroenke, just given the track record that he's had. I will say, back to kind of what we mentioned in the beginning is this part sucks. And it sucks because of Peter Seidler, the connection to Peter Seidler. It'll be interesting to hear from Sheel at some point. I'm sure the lawsuit has something to do with nobody really wanting to say much for the time being. But it had felt like this uncertainty and instability was probably going to follow the Padres as long as this group was in charge. There were going to be questions about ownership, how much can you pay, the lawsuit, this and that. And so, as disappointing as it will likely be, to not have it in the Seidler family, because that's what Peter wanted. If in the long term, all the drama kind of in the background, the instability, year in, year out, not knowing, all right, how much are they going to be able to spend, this and that. You never hear from these guys. You don't really know what their vision is. If you have an owner that's willing to stand there, take questions, express his desire and his plan. And again, you're hoping that it's the right person that can, genuinely has the genuine desire to pursue a championship. That's obviously the first box you want to check, but maybe that kind of lends some stability so that this franchise, every single offseason, Derek, there are no normal off seasons. And
no, this problem is this is their normal offseason.
This is a normal. Yeah. Can we take inventory of what happened? I meant to do that off the top. Mike Shildt quits his job. Mm-hmm. So then you have to look for a new manager. Yu Darvish, elbow surgery.
Mulling potential retirement.
The Craig Stammen news. Are they going to trade
for recording Albert Pujols, one of the greatest hitters of all time?
Right. Are they going to trade Fernando Tatis Jr.? And by the way, they're going to sell the franchise all in the matter of what? A month, a few weeks?
Yeah, about 3.5 weeks. Yeah.
It's been complete mayhem. And we've just grown so accustomed to kind of operating within that instability and not knowing what things are going to look like. Even with John Seidler, were any of us convinced that this is going to be the guy for the next decade, the next 5 years, for the next 3 years? It didn't necessarily seem like it. Again, we couldn't ask him because he never spent any time with us. He never took real, genuine questions outside of let me hop in the booth down in mud. Let's, hop in the booth with Jesse, and
it's very
controlled environment where I'm sure there was some planning for those interactions.
Right. What you alluded to earlier is maybe he's not very comfortable in doing these talking to other humans without knowing exactly what's going to be happening. I mean, look at the video from the Craig Stammen press conference. It looks like he's uncomfortable smiling standing next to people. Like he might just not be a people person, maybe a social anxiety. I don't know. All I know is he is not front and center by any stretch of the imagination, and he has not tried to do anything to really ingratiate himself other than chat GPTing a couple of emails over the last few months.
And, and not to be like, insensitive to anybody who, like, maybe they're qualified to do the job, just doesn't like to be, in front of cameras. Was it Britt Giroli? There was a national baseball reporter that, at some point in the last couple months was like, if you're a Major League Baseball owner, like, in essence, I'm paraphrasing because I can't find the tweet. It was something along the lines of like, it is your responsibility to at least quarterly talk to reporters, talk to the media. And I was just like, preaching to the choir, friend. You're absolutely right. And can somebody send this tweet directly to John Seidler? Because it was, borderline embarrassing that he had been in control since March. And I don't know if it once, and certainly not since the season started, did just kind of an open scrum where reporters could, hey, we're meeting at this time, hit us with any questions. And look, you can have your canned answers. We're used to people in positions of power having canned non-answers, but we didn't even get that from them.
The
and
trade
again,
deadline, something.
Yes.
They
Opening
surprised
day,
everybody going over the luxury tax at the trade deadline. And
opening day when everybody's in a good mood.
Yeah, we could have said, hey, dude, thanks. Nice job. Why'd you decide to do that? Nope, nothing.
Yeah. And so, again, maybe that was an indicator that there was something going on. A lot of people have brought up, the Eric Grupner. He did when he spoke back in February at spring training and said, I've heard from multiple people that there's no sale planned. We are not going to sell. Now, this is 8-9 months ago. So certainly things can change. But I find it hard to believe that John Seidler and his siblings, that this just dawned on them in the last couple months. Like, maybe we can't make this happen. I'm guessing this is on their minds for a little while, is just trying to figure out, like, get through this year and see what the best path forward looks like.
Because it looks like he's hiding. When you
Doesn't
do
look
that,
like.
look, Stan Kroenke does not like talking to reporters. They call him Silent Stan for a reason. That's his nickname. He's got people in charge. But here's the thing. He gives you access to people who are right next to him who will tell you exactly what his thought process is. So by a proxy, and a very accurate proxy, you can get information. We're not expecting you to be Jerry Jones. You don't have to be out there every week trying to talking more than the head coach of the team does.
Nobody wants that.
We don't want that. Nor do we expect that. That's too much. But check in a couple times a year, spring training, trade deadline, postseason. Give us 3. Give us 3 meetings, right? Just to show that you're alive. Give us a proof of life press conference. Because right now, we don't know if he's a cyborg or what are they called? The hologram, the Tupac thing. We don't know if he's a hologram. We don't know if he's
Seidler AI.
I don't know. I don't know if I've never shaken the man's hand. We've never, fun fact, Peter Seidler and I have never been in the same room at the same time. Maybe we're the same person. You don't know. It could be very well true.
It's so disappointing. And again, it's just going to be, it makes it harder to kind of sell the fan base on whatever happens because they don't know you, and that connection means something. And you're right. Nobody wants a Jerry Jones type of situation, but they want some level of, like, transparency. They want to get to know you and your vision for the franchise. And we just haven't, and not that Eric Katsenda was even any better. I mean, he looked just as uncomfortable being, under the lights, so to speak. And clearly that person, that front facing person, isn't in the Seidler family.
That's why you want Steve Ballmer, man. I want Steve Ballmer standing on a microphone at Petco Park yelling about how many toilets he has. That's what I want for this city. Okay.
Okay, throwing this out there from Chip Rocks. What if the Padres go all the way, win the World Series? Do they said, nah, don't want to sell the team now?
Oh, no, the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So while it's even more valuable, that's because, again, like I said, you always follow the money, right? And it sucks that that's the case. You always follow the money. And if he is not saying, hey, listen, it wasn't right for me, I shouldn't be in this position. Let me try Tom. Let me try Sheel. Let me try Alfredo, let me try somebody else in the organization. I'm just going to step down from controlling partner or managing partner and put somebody else in here who's already here. The fact he's not doing that shows you he wants to cash out. That is the only logical conclusion that can be drawn from this, and that sucks.
Yeah. We know we need to wind down. You've got some TV responsibilities coming up. Any final thoughts?
You want to talk about Craig Stammen for a minute? His press conference was good.
Oh, it was great. It was great. Yeah.
Craig's a great guy. By the way, he put the hat on. He looked exactly like he was going out to warm up in the bullpen. Like it looked like that hat. I think it's his old hat. Like it was broken in. He had the bend in it. Like was that his old hat?
It might have been. That's a good question. I wish I had thought to ask him that. That's a very, very good question. Also, did you see
go on vacation?
Did you see how he put his jersey on?
Oh yeah.
That was strange. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, it's he's very agile.
It was like he put on a t-shirt, but then it was unbuttoned, and I was like, that's interesting. I was worried because we saw, I think, Bob Melvin button the wrong buttons at one point in one of these, and I was like, all right, Craig. And he took his time. It was a long time of us just watching him button the buttons, but I think he nailed it, and that was a fun presser. Enjoyed it a lot. Great catching up with Craig. We'll see if he can do the job. Gonna get a crash course now the next few months ahead of the season, but. I wonder, people have asked like how aware, I would hope Craig Stammen was aware of this. Now knowing Craig and the fact that like, look, there weren't other teams knocking on his door to offer him the opportunity to manage their clubs. But I would guess he'd probably be up for this regardless. Although he is moving a young family across the country, but how aware, I'm sure this is a question that Craig will be asked at some point. Did you know that a week after, not even a week, 3 days after you were officially announced, that the club would essentially be put up for sale? Curious what his answer to that question might be.
I don't know. You'd like to think that most people is like there are 30 Major League Baseball manager jobs, and most people would kill members of their own family to get one.
Yeah.
So
I think he would take it regardless.
Yeah, you would hope that he would be like, yeah, dude, come on. I mean, it's how often do you get this opportunity? You know, how often do you get this opportunity? So I don't think that would be the differentiating factor. Now if it comes down to, as we talked about earlier, free agency. Let's say they're talking to a guy, I'll throw him out there, Cody Bellinger, and he looking at it going, well, who's your owner going to be next year? Oh yeah, well, we don't know. Okay, well, I'll see you. Bye. I'll see you in New York. No.
Yeah, a lot of the same topics that we were batting around last year.
Yeah.
But now we know for sure.
Remember Roki Sasaki. Remember one of the things he said? The stability, the ownership here with the Dodgers really drew me to this place.
It's a good thing he never became a factor for the Dodgers in their back-to-back World Series.
Yeah, never. He wasn't one of their best relief pitchers in the postseason. Not at all. No.
It was nice being able to forget about him for a little while, and then all of a sudden he's the lights out closer. You're like, dang it. So much for that.
Yeah, we still know not as good as Mason Miller.
So what's it going to be next Thursday, Derek?
Dude, who freaking knows? That'll be the day they trade Tatis. You watch. That'll be the day they trade Tatis.
I'd say you're dead wrong, and there's no way that's happening, but who can really say anything to that effect at this point?
Yep. Who knows? That'll be the day that Manny retires.
It's like the Kevin Garnett anything is possible, but like the worst possible version of that.
Oh no, you know who's driving this? Murphy and his damn law. That's what's driving this. And right now he's just parking it at San Diego.
Mm-hmm. Having a day.
Man.
Well, we will see what next Thursday brings, and we will be here to discuss it with you. Thanks for everybody watching, listening, everybody in the chat. We'll catch you next time.
Steve Ballmer, call me.